What's up, boxing people? So I don't know why, but for any time there's a Canelo fight, and usually it's after the fight and after we see the pay-per-view numbers, what is the first thing we start hearing about? We start hearing about, is Canelo the face of boxing still? And recently, it's been a comparison between him and Gervonta Davis, and I don't think there's a comparison, but we're going to get into it a little bit, and I'll tell you what I believe should be looked at or looked into when we're talking about the face of boxing. All right. Now, keep in mind, y'all know I'm not a boxing historian. I'm not going to pretend to be. All right. But I'm focused on the now. And we're talking about who's the face of boxing now. To determine that, we need to figure out what is the face of boxing. How do you quantify it? How do you figure it out? Because there's no specific algorithm or talking head that will give you the answer to this. But in my opinion, when I think of the face of boxing, there are a few things that come to mind. And if there's a fighter other than Canelo Alvarez that comes to mind when I mention these, y'all let me know in the comments. Number one is popularity. All right, so some of y'all might think that's not the biggest thing because we got the misfits and all that kind of boxing going on, but the YouTuber boxing. But no, we're talking about within boxing. Usually someone with an amateur pedigree, even if it's only a few fights. Somebody that's a pro now and is doing big things. So you look at their popularity. So I think popularity is one, how big of a draw they are, that's two. The big fights that they put on. You know what I'm saying? And when I say big fights, I'm talking about also fights that fans like. So, less easy nights. You know what I mean? So we're talking about popularity, big draw, big fights, less easy nights. Sometimes you can't help it because you have that mandatory, or the fighter might have that mandatory that they have to do. They just have to. They can't do anything about that. And sometimes that can be an easy night. It just depends on the mandatory. But when they have voluntaries, that shouldn't be an easy night, in my opinion, if you are to be considered the face of boxing. All right. And normally, when you're talking about the face of boxing, they're either a fan favorite, and that's not always hand in hand with popularity, but they have to be a fan favorite. And in some cases, when you look at Floyd Mayweather, Jr., that is, polarizing, because people either love Money May or they didn't like him and they wanted to see him lose. That's what it felt like, but they still tuned in. So those are the aspects of the face of boxing to me. Go over one last time. Popularity, big draw, big fights, less easy nights, fan favorite, all right? The face of boxing has an obligation to the fans. We're the ones that's paying for either their seats or pay-per-views, and there's a power. There's a power that we have as being the consumer, and we should expect quality fights and good performances, or you're gonna lose your position. So what names come to mind when I consider all these things I'm talking about, y'all? It's Canelo, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Gervonta Davis. All right, so those are the four names that I want to talk about when we're talking about the face of boxing. All right, so these fighters, I feel, have all given us a fight that we were extremely interested in over the last few years. So the first order of business is popularity. All right, so let's just look at IG. We're going to use IG as a reference. So for IG, you got Canelo with 16.3 mil. Then you got, I think next would be Joshua at 15.9 mil. And then you have Tyson Fury at 6.4 mil and Gervonta Davis at 5.9 million. So when you stack them up like that, you got Canelo 1, Joshua 2, Fury 3, and Gervonta Davis 4. So he would be fourth on the list. But we know that followers' popularity on IG is not everything. Just take a look at Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia has 10 million followers, nowhere close to being the face of boxing, but he is a popular name, and as a primary reason, when you see combining with Ryan Garcia's people that follow him compared to Gervonta Davis, they both had large followings, hence they did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. That's a good recipe. And that's the same reason why Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury is looked at being a big fight, because look at their followers. It's going to do over 1 million pay-per-view buys. So that is a recipe. It's a good thing to look at when you're talking about popularity. People know you, people want to watch you. But Canelo takes the cake. He's number one in this category, and it's no fluke. He should be. So the second one, we're talking about draws. We already know Canelo's a big draw. He just had that fight with Jermell Charlo, and that was at T-Mobile. He had John Ryder, 51,000 plus, was in attendance for that in Mexico. Gennady Golovkin 3 had over 19,000, 20,000 plus for Bivol. Caleb Plant had over 16,000. And then we know the big one, especially during the pandemic. It was like towards the end, I want to say, of the pandemic, when people could actually attend events, and they set records with that Billy Joe Saunders fight with over 73,000. attended that in the AT&T Stadium in Dallas. So Canelo brings him out. Does anybody compete with that? If you want to argue and say, well, look what Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis did when they brought in over 20,000 into T-Mobile Arena and $22 million in ticket sales. So that's huge. That's huge. And congratulations to all these fighters, man. These fighters put in a lot of work to get to this point. So respect to them all. So we're just talking about the face. They all have put in hard work to get to where they're at. But as far as this is concerned, it's still not close, even when you're looking at that, because Gervonta Davis had to get with Ryan Garcia for that. He also had, I believe it was like over 18,000 for Rolly Romero. So Gervonta, he brings him out as well. We already know Davis brings him out, but it's not like Canelo. Because Canelo, you see him going against the John Ryders of the world, and he still can get over 50,000 in attendance. That's impressive. Nobody really knew Bivol, except us boxing fans, of course. And I actually picked Bivol to beat him. Did over 20,000 for that fight. And then if we want to look at Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. So Tyson Fury versus Dillian White did over 94,000 in attendance. And that was in April 2022. 94,000. Joshua Klitschko, 90,000. Then you see down the list, these are just like the highest in total attendance. It's just a long list of them. But you'll see Canelo for sure, and you'll see repeat Joshua's. And you can see, even though Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, they constantly have people coming. That is over in the UK. Now, to Joshua's credit and to Fury's credit, Fury came over, had some big fights with Wilder, great attendance numbers. And Joshua came over here and fought Andy Ruiz Jr., great attendance numbers in MSG. So both of them have done well. Fury has not done as well without Wilder. Let's be real on that. But then it's still somebody from the UK coming over to the US. So I'm not going to say Fury's going to be elevated over Canelo, because I honestly think if Canelo went over to the UK, he would do some big numbers. Some big numbers. And you're not going to put Joshua over Canelo either. So I still have Canelo in this department as well. So for me, when I'm talking about the face, Canelo has popularity. Canelo is the biggest draw. Now I'm really going to combine the next one and like big fights, less easy nights, because I want to see big fights and less easy nights. Now, did Davis and Garcia give us a big fight? Yes, that was a fight that we all wanted to see. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's a big fight. But also less easy nights. That means your next fight, you're not going to fight someone that people hardly know. Or you're not going to fight a fight that we already know you're going to win, like when Wilder fought Ortiz for a third time. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to see those. We don't want to see those. Well, I know I don't as a fan. I already know what the results is going to be. Or at least I have a good idea. That doesn't make me want to pay for the pay-per-view. And when you look at Canelo, Charlo, Ryder, Golovkin, Bivol, Plant, Saunders, Callum Smith, the names, Daniel Jacobs, Sergey Kovalev, Gennady Golovkin twice, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. for the fans, took care of business there. So Amir Khan, Canelo handles his business, man. I mean, all of these fights, you have to go back probably to like 2011 before you get to a fight that you might have been less interested in, you know, or maybe you could say Rocky Fielding. You could say the Rocky Fielding fight in 2018, but I think mostly 2011 after that. My goodness, Canelo gives you the lesser of easy fights than any other fighter. And when you're giving me less easy nights, big fights, you're going to be a favorite of mine. I'm a fan of the sport. I like watching the best fight the best, or at least fighters that are close or what we think could be the best, or give them a challenge. So I like watching that, and Canelo gives us that. So looking at all these factors, Canelo Alvarez is the clear face of boxing. Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Gervonta Davis, they're distant seconds in my opinion. Now, Gervonta Davis has the ability to be the one, pun intended, to take the mantle soon, but he needs to give us those nights consistently. I don't want to see him fight an undersized Leo Santa Cruz, man. That wasn't interesting to me. Didn't want to see that. I want to see him take on the Stevensons. Thank you for the Ryan Garcia fight. But I want to see Stevenson. I want to see Haney. Look how Haney's moving. That's what I want to see. And as a fan, you shouldn't care how much money they making. You should care about what fights they taking. And that's what I care about. Bottom line, Canelo is the face of boxing, hands down. But we got some really good fighters like Davis, Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and possibly Ryan Garcia, now with Derrick James, that will be vying for the mantle once Canelo and the older guard walk away and retire. So let's just put an end to the debate. Canelo is the face of boxing. there is no debate, and we'll move on from here. That's one fan's thoughts. I appreciate you, boxing people. Let me know what your thoughts are. What's your take on what makes the face of boxing? I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.